a corrupt deal involving withholding a White House meeting, or perhaps the withholding of aid as well, for these political purposes. So obviously he has very relevant information, and we do want him to come.
We begin with President Trump's first Homeland Security advisor, Tom Bossert, whose core responsibilities included election security and helping coordinate the U.S. government response to Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Tom, thank you for joining us this morning. You know, the whistleblower's complaint says that White House officials were deeply disturbed by the president's phone call with Zelensky. What was your reaction?
Yeah, I'm deeply disturbed by it as well, and this entire mess has me frustrated, George. Thanks for having me on. You and I both lived through the impeachment of President Clinton and saw how frustrating and dividing it can be, and I've just spent a week overseas, and I'll tell you, the whole world is watching this. The removal of a president is a big and serious deal, but the removal of a president in not only a democracy, but the biggest democracy in the world is really a weighty matter, and I hope that everyone can sift through the evidence and be very careful, as I've seen a lot of rush to judgment this week. That said, it is a bad day and a bad week for this president and for this country if he is asking for political dirt on an opponent. But it looks to me like the other matter that's far from proven is whether he was doing anything to abuse his power and withhold aid in order to solicit such a thing. That seems to be far from proven, and it's going to be the focus of, I think, our Congress for the next year. That's the investigation. Let's walk through some of what's in the whistleblower's complaint, and I want to show it up on the screen. It starts with President Zelensky saying, "I'd like to thank the president for your great support in the area of defense. We're ready to continue to cooperate for the next step. Specifically, we're almost ready to buy more javelins from the United States for defense purposes." And then the president says, "I would like you to do us a favor, though, because our country has been through a lot and Ukraine knows a lot about it. I would like you to find out what happened with this whole situation with Ukraine. They say CrowdStrike. I guess you have one of your wealthy people to serve it. They say Ukraine has it. There are a lot of things that went on, the whole situation." Now, what the president is referring to there is a debunked conspiracy theory that somehow Ukraine, not Russia, hacked the Democratic emails in 2016, and that Ukraine might have the DNC server or Hillary's emails. The details are both convoluted and false. And during your time in the White House, you explained that to the president, right? I did. It's not only a conspiracy theory, it is completely debunked. You know, I don't want to be glib about this matter, but last year, retired former Senator Judd Gregg wrote a piece in the Hill magazine saying the 3 ways or the 5 ways to impeach oneself. And the third way was to hire Rudy Giuliani. And at this point, I am deeply frustrated with what he and the legal team is doing and repeating that debunked theory to the president. It sticks in his mind when he hears it over and over again. And for clarity here, George, let me just again repeat that it has no validity. The United States government reached its conclusion on attributing to Russia the DNC hack in 2016 before it even communicated it to the FBI and long before the FBI ever knocked on the door at the DNC. So a server inside the DNC was not relevant to our determination to the attribution. It was made up front and beforehand. And so while servers can be important in some of the investigations that followed, it has nothing to do with the U.S. government's attribution of Russia for the DNC hack. Yet the president keeps on repeating it. You condemn Mayor Giuliani for continuing to tell the president to do that. How do you explain why the president brings this up in a meeting with the Ukrainian president? That is a form of pressure.
And American journalists. So this is a great day. A ruthless killer has been brought to justice. Not the end of ISIS by any means, and we've had some recent serious setbacks with the release of over 100 ISIS fighters. That struggle is going to have to go on, made more difficult by the fact that we have betrayed the Kurds and withdrawn our forces from part of Syria. But nonetheless, an important victory against this brutal killer. In terms of notifying the Gang of Eight, that wasn't done. Look, the reason to notify the Gang of Eight is frankly more important when things go wrong. If, the president said it was dangerous flying in, the Russians could have shot down American planes.
And the Gang of Eight was told about the bin Laden raid.
That's my understanding. I wasn't part of the Gang of Eight at that time, but that's my understanding. But had this escalated, had something gone wrong, had we gotten into a firefight with the Russians, it's to the administration's advantage to be able to say, we informed Congress we were going in, they were aware of the risks, we at least gave them the chance to provide feedback. That wasn't done here. I think that's a mistake. But let's not lose sight of the fact it was a success, and a ruthless killer has been taken off the battlefield.
But still concerned about those troops coming out?
Absolutely. No, I think it's a disastrous mistake to betray the Kurds this way. I think it just improves the Russian position in the Middle East, something they desperately want. I vehemently disagree with what the president said today about, oh, the Russians loved having us there. That's simply not true, not even remotely
I'm not sure what
true.
he was thanking the Russians for, but...
But more than that, the idea that we would pull our forces away from this vital ally, the Kurds, that we've fought with, died by our side, and now we're sending our troops back in to protect oil, so we'll betray an ally, but we'll go back in to protect the oil. That sickens me, frankly. And I think, as you could see from so many of the troops that have had to pull out and abandon their allies, they're sickened by the president's decision as well.
And I want to move on to these investigations, and I want to start with the new one. The Justice Department has shifted its review of the 2016 Russia probe to what they call a criminal investigation. You've said that you have had, quote, profound concerns that the move means that Attorney General William Barr's Justice Department has become what you call a vehicle for President Trump's political revenge. What makes you draw that conclusion?
Well, if these reports are correct, and now Bill Barr's Justice Department is doing a criminal investigation of people who properly looked into Russian interference in our election, in the FBI or in the intelligence agencies, it means that Bill Barr, on the president's behalf, is weaponizing the Justice Department to go after the president's enemies. I've served for years